welcome to a long overdue episode of my knitting podcast or making podcast. My name's Patricia. I'm coming to you from Dharug Country in New South Wales, Australia, or also known as Sydney. This is the third attempt at recording an episode, updating you on what I've been up to over the past year. So it has been quite a while since I last recorded and updated. Different reasons. The main one being I was a bit over, I guess, recording in the traditional knitting podcast format, and so I decided to take a break and give myself that bandwidth to focus on life stuff, etc., which I did. This weekend I popped into the Knitting Nook and I was chatting with Heather, who very kindly gave me the final push that I needed to put out an update on how I am going and what I've been up to. So I've been thinking about it for a little while, but it was really nice to hear from someone who was pretty much asking what was I up to. So a lot has happened creatively. I have signed up to the local Spinners and Hand Weavers Guild of New South Wales. They're located in Eastwood. I hired a spinning wheel with them and I undertook 2 spinning courses and learned how to spin, which then led me to asking for my own spinning wheel for my birthday last year, which I got. I have been spinning on. At the moment, I am participating in the 100 Days of Long Draw Spinning Challenge that's been run by Andrea Mowry, which has been a lot of fun. I haven't been religious with it, but it's been a really good opportunity to practice and get some of my yarns spun up, or some of my fibres spun up. I also went to the Australian Yarn Show in Canberra and I signed up for a course in embroidery, botanical embroidery on hand knits. So I am just trying to pull out the worksheet. So in the course we were trying to do this. Hopefully you can see that. That was a lot of fun. It was a really good way to unlock another layer of creativity with hand knits and opening you up to a world of possibilities when it comes to ribbons and beads. And this was really building on top of the Embroidery on Knits book that was published by Elaine last year, which I've also been referencing and using. So I've done a bit of that as well. I have finished items to show you. I'm not going to show you everything I've made since my last update because that's a bit much, and a lot of that's also been gifted. So I'll focus on some recent items. I probably won't go into things that I have acquired either, just because I'm trying to move away from that and share information that I find useful when I watch other makers. So again, aligning a bit to that and moving away from the standard format. So with that in mind, I guess one of the first things I will show you are some skeins that I've spun up from a Newton bat. So I am a Patreon member for Newton or Kewture. I can never remember how to say it. I enjoy watching Carolyn, and the only way to watch her podcast is if you are a Patreon member. I know it comes across as a bit prestigious, but that's why I sign up, and the benefit is I get access to shop updates early. So before I started spinning, I purchased some of her bats in an update around this time last year, and it wasn't until I finished my second spinning course where I learned how to spin it from a bat, and that benefits mostly from long draw or supported long draw to get a woolen spun yarn. Did I attempt and appreciate the beauty of I guess, spinning from a bat. So I have these to show for it, which are roughly 200 grams, which is one bat bag. I can't remember the color. It is like a warm grey beige. It's really squishy and lofty. It's probably coming up at a DK worsted. I haven't measured the grist, so I actually don't know how many meters I've got in that. I do have like a fishing line counter that I can use to count the meterage once I start to cake it up. So when I do that, I'll find out how many meters I've got and then work out what I can do with it. And so that's, I guess, some of the spinning stuff that I've started to do, which I wanted to share, and I will share a bit about it because I've developed a technical appreciation for how wool is processed before, or how fibre is processed before it's spun, and what that can do in terms of the end product. So I'm just checking my timer, and what that can do in terms of the end product. So in terms of other items that I have finished up, you may have seen photos of it. It was the Amy slip over using Explorer fibre knits with some Mohair. I love how the fabric turned out. I just hate that I knitted at a tighter gauge, and so it's actually come up a bit small, but not small in terms of overall size. It's in terms of the tighter gauge has lent to a smaller armhole, and so the join for the strap is uncomfortably high, whereas I would prefer it a bit lower down. So I tried to see if my mum could wear this. She found it too warm, even though it fit her. And so I'm just delaying the inevitable in terms of unraveling the yarn and salvaging it and repurposing it. So I did finish it. It's just going to end up being frogged. The other item that I have finished and I haven't really shown, like I haven't taken a proper finished garment photo of it, is the Fleur sweater. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that. So it's got balloon sleeves with these daisies along it, along the top of the arm. It's knit in the Sandnes Garn Cos, holding Tynn silk mohair at a pretty much like a bulky gauge. It doesn't take long to finish. It's incredibly light and very warm. And I'm thinking about adding some beads along here, along the daisies, just to give it a little extra something. So I've really enjoyed wearing that. I've gotten a lot of compliments from it as well, which is really nice. I'll probably make a few more things out of that book. I really enjoy a blown yarn, and I think it's because it's quite warm and light. And this has been perfect for the sun changing weather here, where I don't know what to throw on. I just throw that on. The other thing that I have made and I need to make more of are these cute little no scratch mitts. So they're meant to be for babies to put over their hands so that they don't scratch their face with their very sharp fingernails. There are a couple of people at work who are expecting, and this is just like a nice little quick, thoughtful keepsake that I've thought about making them. I have thought about beanies. Not everyone puts beanies on their babies or likes them, and I thought this was a bit more practical and a way to provide a thoughtful gift without having to spend too much time knitting on something that's not for me. So that's mostly what I've finished. I do have a shawl, and I'll splice in some footage of it, which I recorded earlier. It was knit up at a worsted gauge, so 16 inches, using 2 strands of knitted and 1 strand of mohair. It has a wingspan of roughly 1.80 meters and a depth of 52-53 centimeters. with a series of flowers, stems and baubles in different sequences going along the outer triangular edge. It was a lot of fun to improvise that shawl. I have taken detailed notes. Depending on interest, I'll think about putting something together to help give those instructions to people. And yeah, it's a really nice finished product. I used Stila from a Newton collection a couple of collections ago. I got the Stila color, which is this color, in a D-stash, and I still have some left over. I have roughly 140 grams left over, which I am planning to use held with this mohair to bring out the blue a bit more. Whether I have enough to make a slip over or a vest of sorts, I don't know. It may end up as another shawl, but I'm just keen to see what I can do with it and how it's going to look with a poppy blue as opposed to a teal mohair, which is what I used in the shawl. So I'm excited to have a play with that to see how it comes out. Before I forget, I do also want to talk about some of the things that I'm working on. I've got a few things on the go at the moment, and mainly why they are on the go or why I'm working on them is because it's something that I've really wanted in that color, or it's a wool that I've really wanted to try out in a garment because it's either rustic or it's lightweight and warm. I've been gravitating towards that, and I think that's got a lot to do with learning around learning the technicalities of spinning yarn. You develop a really strong appreciation for the different ways that fibre are processed and what that means in terms of breed, staple length, woolen or worsted, and how that turns out in the end fabric. So having said that, I'm using Double Sunday, which I think is a non-superwash yarn from Sandnes Garn from memory. I could be wrong. I'm knitting the Lou sweater at the moment, which is Double Sunday held with mohair. It is statement green, jelly bean green color from this book. I think that's 2202. It's the same book that has the Amy slipover and the Guernsey and the Frankie sweater, which I've also made. So I'm looking to make the loose sweater with a side slit or split hem. So I think that'll knit up quite quickly given the gauge. So I started like a week ago and I'm already pretty far ahead. I've got to get to, I think it's like 300 and odd stitches all the way around through the raglan increases, and then I can get ready to split for sleeves. The other thing that I'm working on with an unexpected yarn choice, I guess, is the Kelly sweater from the tweed, recycled tweed Sandnes Garn book. I'm working the version that's top down. There is also a bottom up version in that book. I chose not to use a tweed. I wanted something that was drapier given the shape and the boxiness of the cut of this sweater. I wanted something that looked a bit luxe and a little bit expensive and that I could actually wear with corporate wear to work. Hence the light grey, because that'll suit everything. And the yarn that I ended up swatching and getting perfect gauge for. Sorry, I've got a bit of allergies at the moment. The yarn that I ended up swatching that achieved gauge and a really beautiful drape with enough loftiness that allowed for circulation of air so it wasn't too dense is a silk cashmere alpaca blend from Fibre Arts Shed that I got a few years ago. So I know usually people would keep that for a shawl maybe. I want to use it for this sweater because I think it'll look really nice. It'll be like something you just relaxed but polished and you throw on and you can just wear it with whatever for work or casually. So I'm keen to get that moving along. I think the only thing that probably is causing me to procrastinate a little bit on it is I have to put short rows in the neckline. And I've done some preliminary research on adding short rows into sweater patterns, but what seems to be mostly coming up, at least on YouTube, are where you're adding it into color work. So you're adding it before or after the yoke, what they are, how to do them, but no one's actually worked out or put together like a guide for how to add them into a raglan. So if I had like a sizing range, so say from like extra small to small, this is usually how many short rows are added into that pattern. If it's a medium, this is how many short rows. If it's a large, this is how many short rows. And I get that's because there are a whole bunch of variables, but I kind of wish I could be spoon-fed that info so I didn't have to work it out for myself when I want to get something to wear. But once I work it out, I'll try and share something about it in one of the upcoming episodes. I think what's going to work best for me is just referencing another Sandnes Garn raglan pattern of a similar gauge where it does have short rows and incorporating it. So for example, in the Lou sweater, I think there are like 5 short rows on each side. So I'll probably adopt the same for this because they are a similar gauge and just see how that works out. If not, I can always try again. That's the beautiful thing about wool. So that's the other thing I'm actively working on. I've got 2 more. So one of them is I'm just checking my timer. One of the other ones are the Nenya by Marcena Koleshek. I hope I said that correctly, Marcena. So I signed up for this test knit and I haven't finished it, and this pattern's already out and summer has come and gone. I'm really, really sorry. I have a very strong aversion to working with plant fibre because it lacks flexibility, but I have to say that the Holst Coast, which is what I'm using for this, has been pretty good. It's just very thin and the gauge is very small, and so I tend to feel it in my hands, and it's all in twisted rib. It is a beautiful top. I will have it for this summer. I promise Marcena I'll have it for this summer. And I love her designs. They're beautiful and intricate, and I don't know, there's just something really, really whimsical about what she designs. And they're just the right level of interest and upskilling as you progress through the different patterns she has. And she's in the process of announcing a new collection and a knit along. So if you don't follow her on Instagram already, please go ahead and do that. You will not regret it. She's got a beautiful aesthetic and it's just really thoughtful pattern making and designing abilities. So definitely follow Marcena for some design inspo for your wardrobe. The last thing that I'll show you that I'm working on, well, the last 2 things, are a Newton, my first Newton garment. So with keeping in mind that a lot of people who knit with Newton here in this climate can have the experience of feeling overheated in it. And so I didn't want to set myself up for failure straight away. So I decided to make a cardigan as opposed to a closed sweater where I wasn't able to regulate my body temperature. So I'm making the timepiece cardigan by Albina McLaughlin. And I haven't done much shaping on the sleeves. I've just kind of kept them quite wide and straight down. And instead of working the body straight away, I've decided to do both sleeves. And then I'm going to try and do a bit of a steam block before I keep going, just to see how it's fitting before continuing. I really like this pattern because it is like a nice classic design. It's inspired by the Nirvana cardigan or the Kurt Cobain cardigan. And you're knitting the button band at the same time. And I really like that because I don't like going back to pick up a button band. So that one I'm just working through gently. I don't have any kind of self-imposed deadline. It's a really nice experience. And the unspun that I'm using is not Newton actually. It's the colour Breeze from Wool and Twine from a couple of years ago, where I did stock up on Breeze and Storm, which is like a light and a dark grey. And I was waiting for the right project to turn it into fabric. And now I've got it, so I'm working on it. The other thing, and I am kind of rushing through this, the other thing that I've been creatively exploring has been just watching with different worsted and woolen spun yarns, but mainly woolen spun. I've got a real love for woolen spun yarns and rustic yarns because they are lighter and loftier, and they seem to have this magical element to them. What I mean by that is this is a Tukuwool fingering held double, knit on 5mm needles, and I've gotten it to come up at a worsted weight gauge. And because of how lofty the yarn is, it is not completely transparent. I can see a little bit through, but it's just the right level of openness to allow your body to regulate its temperature. And I really want to make a sweater out of this, so I'm just thinking about the color, and I already have 2, technically 3 on the go, so it's not urgent, but it's something that I definitely want, so I wanted to keep the swatch. And I've written down the notes of the gauge so that I keep a record of it, because I really, really love how that came out. The other piece that I've got that I've been playing with is this idea of like a statement shawl or wrap. So I've knitted up the Tukuwool DK using 4.5mm needles. I don't know if you can hear my dogs. With the Virta Bleu in, and the baubles are like a matcha lime, and that's in their fingering weight held double. This also came up at like a worsted gauge, so it was 16 to 17 stitches per 10 centimeters, which has been really nice. I'm thinking about doing a separate episode where I talk you through like the formulas for when you want to improvise or make your own shawl and things to think about. This is because off the back of the one that I made myself this past week, I found all the information, but it wasn't all in the one place. And so I'd like to put it all in the one place, not just for my own reference, but for anyone else who's interested. So, as I was saying, I'm going to do an episode where I talk you through working out your grams of yarn per centimeter square based off your swatch. So I'll do that separately, and I'll talk you through why that's important, because it helps you work out things like how many meters you need. And I'll also talk you through what that means in terms of total surface area of a garment or item that you're thinking of making, so that you can start to improvise and work out things for yourself. So if you've got a ready-to-wear sweater that you want to measure, you have that surface area measurement, and then you can work out the area squared and work out how much wool you need or how much yarn you need in order to replicate that ready-to-wear sweater. So I think those are the handy things to just kind of put in one location, and it'll encourage a bit of a discussion. Like someone might find that, no, there's a better way, and they can provide some feedback, and then we can all learn together, which I think is a lot of fun, especially when you want to level up. So that's just something that I'm working on for the moment. These are the 2 skeins that I'm using on that. I'm really liking how it's knitting up. I think, interestingly, the Tukuwool DK is light, and I want to say like it's come up thinner than holding the fingering double, which is really interesting, given the fact that 2 fingering should technically mean 1 DK, right? So the squish factor varies quite a lot with the Finfoot wool, which I find really interesting. And the fingering has come out quite soft after blocking, whereas I think the DK, you could probably block another round and it'll soften up even more. So just observations based on the prep and the density or the thickness of the diameter of the yarn and how it's been spun, which is really interesting. The last thing that I probably want to talk about is this beautiful Kosapri unspun, which I'm going to knit together with this very nice pink Mohair to get like a muted, almost like a muted neutral. I think you could probably end up with a bit of a pinky beige almost. I'm just holding it. Yeah, we'll see. So in the recent May collection, it's not so sheepy. In the recent May collection for the Newton update, there was Apricos, Kosapri, Pigilin, Pomona, and there was another one and I can't remember its name. There's another two, I think. I invested in 600 grams of Kosapri, which was the lighter apricot, and I got a bag of Picalin, which was around 300 grams, and Pomona, which was a 500 gram bag, and that was like this rich dark purple because I think you could make something really lovely with it depending on what you blended it with. So I look forward to doing some swatches to see the color changes based on what you hold it with. And that's another part of the process that I've really started to enjoy. I have a few swatches that I've started to collect and put together. And to look for color, for texture, for feel, for like drape. And I'm really liking how it's teaching me new things about searching for the pattern based on the swatch as opposed to swatching for the pattern specifically. So what I mean by that is grabbing a pair of needles that I'm comfortable with based on what I'm thinking in terms of density of the fabric. So if I want a tighter density, I'll opt for like a 3.5 or a 3mm needles for something like 1-on-1 of this. And then I'll see what that gauge that comes out at once it's blocked. I'll put that gauge into the search engine in Ravelry in order to see what patterns are designed for that gauge, and then I can pick from there and work out what ones are already in my library, rather than going, oh, this would look really nice in a lento. I'm going to knit it for a lento, and kind of working backwards. And that's been really fun because it's helped me discover some new designers and some new patterns, and come across some other users on Ravelry who do knit a lot with something like unspun or a rustic yarn. So that's, I wouldn't say a nutshell, but that's where I am. I will update you as I go along. I think I'll probably stick to this style and this level of conversation, so I'd be keen to hear your feedback. If that's something that you like. If you don't like, just please be respectful about not liking it. All mean comments get deleted. You have a dislike button you are more than welcome to use. You also have a like button you're more than welcome to use. But I think for the moment I will probably shift away a bit from the traditional podcasting format and talk a little bit more about what interests me and share what interests me, and that has a lot more to do with like the properties and the technicalities of the wool, as well as the construction of an item, the wearability and the durability, and anything else around that nature, I think separately, what I want to share are some of the resources or things that I've been going through and absorbing. So I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. One of the ones that stuck out for me recently, I'm still working through, is the I've got it on my Audible here. Just give me a second. It is The Fabric of Civilization. That has been really interesting. I'm almost done with that one, and prior to that one I had listened to a couple of BDs, so business development books, and some self-help books, I think they call them, so things like Scarcity Brain and stuff like that. But I also listened to Vanishing Fleece by Clara Parks, and that was a really great read. They talked about the farm to fabric process, and she undertook that for the book. And she got crowdfunding, and she talked to all the people that are involved along the process, and the extinction of the technical trade abilities that feed into that process in order for us to get the fibre and get the yarn that essentially gives us our clothes. Really great book. I do recommend it. You learn a lot. It is US centric, so just keep that in mind, that it might be culturally different to where you're from, and so the industry challenges would be different as well, but nonetheless a very informative read. The other two things or three things that I am reading through at the moment, and I'm trying to start to practice my reading and knitting at the same time so I can get through my paper bags. One of them is called The Rule of Law, which is about the history of legal systems across different civilizations, going back past the Byzantine eras, which is really nerdy interesting for me because that's my background. The other one is The Song of the Cell, which is a book about the history and the evolution of medical research into cellular biology, and it's been written for a non-medical audience, which is really great. I love reading about medicine. I don't know why, I just do. And the other book that I've got on my bedside table that I flick through as well is called Worn, which is also about the history of textiles, but told a bit differently. So it goes chapter by chapter based on the fabric type. And the one that I'm listening to is a bit more about civilization, but trade as well. So that's kind of where I'm at. I thank you for sticking around this long, if you have stuck around this long, and I will look forward to updating you in the next video and putting out things that are a little bit different that hopefully you will get something out of, that will help you learn a little bit more or encourage a bit of a conversation so that we can all learn and grow together. So thank you, and until next time, please look after yourselves and each other, and I hope you get to enjoy some time that fills your cup with creativity and the things that bring you joy. So until next time, thank you and goodbye.